So now it's time for interior finishes. We've talked about the building envelope, we've talked about slabs and foundations, site work, and general conditions. So let's go inside the building now and start to talk about what kinds of things we can do in terms of selecting green materials. And I'll tell you right now, there is no such thing as a green material. Or there's no such thing as an ungreen material. It really depends on the project, the client, the budget, the context. What's really important? Is it important? Do you think about carbon reduction? Do you think about indoor air quality? Do you think about local materials? All of these things play a role in the factors that drive the decisions for certain materials. Working with your client, architect, etc., your job as the sustainability expert is to make recommendations based on the context of the project. In the US, for example, we spend about 90% of our time indoors. Sadly, we love TV in this country, and we love being on our laptops. So we sit inside and we deal with the fact that we need to have materials that will not impact us in a negative way. We care about volatile organic compounds. We worry about non-toxics. We worry about carpet a little bit. I think carpet's a great material. Sometimes we worry about the particulates or dust that can be trapped in there. I've always said that maintenance is really the key to sustainability. So carpet, like any other material, needs maintenance. Certainly not carpet in wet areas, and certainly looking to avoid formaldehyde as much as possible. Now, formaldehyde is everywhere. You walk in the forest, urea formaldehyde is exposed to you all the time. When you have a closed indoor environment, it's really critical to try to reduce these or to try to make sure that your space is heavily ventilated. Certainly, how we bring in dust and debris from outside is a critical aspect of keeping indoor air quality in good shape, and so we want to take measures through walk-off mats or even grates that we can use to try to strip the dirt off of our shoes as we come into space, or just take our shoes off. We love particle board. It's very resource efficient. It's made from waste material, but there are glues that are used to glue it all together. It's gotten better every year. However, we recommend that you might want to encapsulate it in a couple of coats of paint to make sure that it's not off-gassing at the level that you want it to do. And there's your types of formaldehyde: urea and phenol. So you'll have a lot of phenol, formaldehyde, and plywood, and it's pretty well trapped in there, whereas urea is more easily released into the environment. Now, the other factor, of course, is go to rapidly renewable materials. And here's our examples of all these. So, for example, is bamboo a sustainable or green material? Maybe. Depends on where you are. If you happen to live right near the bamboo forest from which it was manufactured, yeah. Is shipping a major factor in terms of thinking about sustainability? Yes. However, rapidly renewable is great. However, again, bamboo is an invasive species. So how do you begin to make decisions about this? It depends on the project, it depends on the budget, it depends on the location. Your job as an expert is to begin to guide clients through these decisions towards what is going to be most sustainable for that project. One thing that's somewhat universal, of course, is trying to make sure that we use sustainably harvested woods. We don't use much wood anymore in commercial construction, so the doors become really critical that we find out how to get FSC or Forest Stewardship Council lumber. That should be written on the slide. Chain of custody is critical. There's a lot of people purporting to have sustainable lumber, but without the chain of custody, it's hard to know if, in fact, there really was a chain of sustainability all the way through the process. And then you have your recycled materials. There's a big difference between post-consumer and pre-consumer. LEED will give you more credit for post-consumer materials like newspaper or tin cans. Pre-consumer waste, though, is good because it's generated during the process of manufacture. So you're beginning to close the loops of the manufacturing process by getting that pre-consumer waste to be used for something else. And certainly all of this, you rely on third-party organizations. So you can rely on trade organizations to a point, but ultimately you have to look at third-party neutral organizations to try to help you make decisions. How do you pick countertops? Here again, all these decisions to make. Which one is more sustainable? Bamboo again. I have bamboo countertops. I love them, but they're like butcher block. They can be damaged. I like to have quartz, for example, because that's sort of like granite but can be found locally. Ice stone or glass countertops are great. Make sure that you really are on top of them in terms of the shipping, because sometimes they can be damaged during shipping. Concrete countertops, again, we talked about Portland cement earlier. Which one is the most sustainable? It really depends on the client and the different situations. Linoleum is a great material. It's made from linseed oil, which is a naturally renewable, rapidly renewable material. However, the process or the chemicals used to bind it all together have some sort of environmental impact. And you have your bamboo, you have your carpet. You have your reclaimed lumber. Now that's a good one, right? Do you take old lumber and reuse it? Do you find regional species, or do you import from South America? Certainly you want to look for certified floors. And then now the new trend, of course, is no flooring. Just take your concrete and stain it. But what about acoustics? How do you deal with that? So again, again and again, I have to say, it's unclear what is really a sustainable material. Next up, we're going to be looking at mechanical systems.